This quick guide is for parents and students to see how you're doing in ELA class. The first thing I'd like to point out to you is the categories that we'll be using in ELA. We have 5 categories we'll be using in Edline for ELA: reading, writing, grammar, speaking, and habits. Your child will be using the feedback from reading, writing, and grammar to come up with an overall grade each quarter. One part of your child's reading grade will come from the comprehension checks. Comprehension checks are given to show what your student knows from a certain article, the close reading that he or she has done. Literal questions are separated out from inferential questions. Literal questions are questions that are answered right in the text, and we just take some close reading to do so. Inferential questions are also answered in the text, and yet sometimes students have to piece together the puzzle pieces to get the answer. More reading that your child will be using to prove that he or she should get a certain grade in this class is about book sharing. What books will they be sharing? Since the expectation is they read 20 minutes at night at least for reading, students should be sharing the books that they read. We discussed in class how we cannot say that a certain number of books equals a certain grade because reading speeds are different for students and texts are obviously different levels for students. So we cannot say that they need to be reading 8 books a quarter. However, 3 books seem to be the minimum that we came up with. So here are 3 options for students to share their books. Students have a list of items that they can do in order to share their books. This student decided to give a book talk for this book, so she received this feedback from me and from other students. She can then use that feedback to improve the next 2 times that she shares what she's reading in class. Here are 3 places, actually 4 places that are available for students to share what they're writing. This first one was based on a response to nonfiction text. The next 3 are creative or narrative writing pieces because we are focusing on those this quarter. If the student did not do a creative piece, there's nothing there yet. This is her first narrative piece, and then we are expecting a second narrative piece. Now, if you'll notice here, there is feedback written in YouTube format. These YouTube links are private to just me, the student, and then you if you're logging into Edline as a parent. So only we can see these pieces of feedback, but they are specific feedback for your child's writing that we expect that they watch so they can improve. If you notice, this child did make 2 revisions to this one piece of writing. So the newest revision will be at the top with the link provided. Just copy and paste that link in a new tab to see feedback so that the student can revise again. This leads me to talk about the feedback loop I will show you on the next page. But before I go there, let me show you this bit here. Habits is feedback for you and your child because the habits help decide what our reading will be like. If we don't have the good habits, our reading skills won't be lifelong. And then here's some feedback on speaking as well. Because we will be focusing on speaking in class, sometimes feedback will be entered here. The fact that this child is revising is key. This is what we need to have for all students because that's how we grow as writers. This feedback loop is what students will be seeing very soon in class if they haven't seen it already. They submit their work to their teacher. They figure out the feedback. They watch that YouTube link that I shared with them. If there are no revisions suggested, this is excellent evidence that they should keep to show what their grade should be. But then they needed to provide more in order to show consistency with this skill. If there are revisions suggested, they should revise. Let me know that they revised. Submit it again. Get more feedback. And it goes on and on and on. They need to keep revising in order to keep improving because that's what writers do. This is the key point of the writing and grammar feedback. In order to get better, we need to keep practicing. If you want to know more about where our information is on our website, it is at scholars.com. rm239.weebly.com because we are in room 239, and it is under the FAR tab. One point here that is brand new is this facts page for parents only. Please continue to ask those valuable questions, and I will continue to add them here with brief answers. If your child has not explained it to you already, please ask your child first and see if he or she can explain it. That is telling for me, because if he or she cannot, then I have not done a good enough job explaining it to them yet. And of course, there are many more resources here on the Parent Resources tab. Every 2 weeks, we will update this blog post. The rest is pretty current. Thank you for taking an interest in your child's learning and not focusing on the grade, but focusing on the learning and the feedback and the revisions that make the learning happen.